Black Order mirror match today. There's a lot to be said about this matchup. I'm just going to touch on a couple things. I think everybody has the general idea of what's supposed to happen here, but there are some nuances that are worth discussing. So first thing, what T4s do we need to make this work? First, like just in terms of the basic functionality of the team, we need Thanos' special and ult. We need Maw's special and ult. And we need the basics on Proxima and Corvus, and we'll talk about why exactly. In terms of making the team work better, just kind of like hit harder, stay alive longer, do more, Corvus is passive, Cull's passive, and the rest of Thanos' T4s are all pretty helpful. But so again, just in terms of basic function, Thanos special and ult, Maw special and ult, and then the two basics on the two skill characters. Okay, now I think everybody kind of knows that you want to use the buff flip after their Thanos uses his buff flip in this matchup. We're going to talk about how to make that happen. So the first thing here is to understand how to manipulate the speed of your Thanos. Now, when you knock one of their characters under 50%, their Thanos is going to get 50% speed bar. Same token, when their Thanos knocks one of your characters under 50%, your Thanos is going to get 50% speed bar. So what this means is, if we knock one of their characters under 50%, and they don't knock any of our characters under 50%, their Thanos is going to go first, every time. If we both knock one character under 50%, then the game is going to do a coin flip. And if they knock one of ours under 50%, but we don't knock any of theirs under 50%, then our Thanos is going to go first and is going to be forced to buff flip first or wait. So our goal on this first attack is going to be to figure out who we can have the best chance of putting under 50% is. Now I'm looking at the character power here. We see that Proxima is 118 and Corvus is 130. But even if Proxima is higher, she's almost always the best choice to attack. The reason for that is that she's going to go, in most cases, right after Thanos. And so if you put a bleed on her, that bleed is going to be accounted for and knock her even lower. Whereas Corvus is going to go much later, so the bleed's not going to count for him. So generally speaking, no matter where she's positioned, unless she's like 130k and Corvus is like 80k, I'm going to choose Proxima first. Now, ideally, I get a crit, and that will just almost definitely knock her under 50%, but I may not, and this is a big punch-up. It's about an 80 or 90k punch-up, so we'll see what happens. I don't actually remember what happened here. Okay, so I did not get a crit, so I want this, there we go. Okay, so we can see that she still has a ways to go to get under 50, and meanwhile, their Thanos knocked mine under 50. So if things stay as they are, my Thanos is going to be forced to go next. That's not good. Because I'm going to have to either choose to buff flip and then have it just reversed by their Thanos, or I'm going to have to wait to my third turn to do the buff flip, and I'm going to take a lot of damage. So I want to get this back to a 50-50 situation where we have an equal chance of our Thanos going next. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use the Proxima basic. And this is why it's important to have the T4s on the basics of Proxima and Corvus, because that will guarantee that both characters will hit. So that will knock her under 50% for sure. I generally don't use the Proxima special in the mirror match except in specific situations, because I don't want her to take a bunch of counters. And so if I use the special, it might bounce to Thanos, he'll counter, Maw will counter because I hit Thanos, right? And she could just die. So really, I'm most of the time going to be using the Proxima basic. Okay, there we go. She is under 50%, which means that it went to a coin flip. I won the coin flip, meaning their Thanos goes first. He buff flips, and I'm going to be in position to buff flip right after. Now, one of the costs of flipping buff second is that it does mean that your Thanos gets hit with a ton of bleeds. So this is kind of one way that you can end up losing the mirror match, is like you're behind, you don't get the buff flip right away, and you just end up taking a bunch of damage. So flipping second is generally the best option, but there are ways that can go haywire. Okay, so we go ahead and flip. Okay, now that we've flipped buffs, right, this is the situation we wanted. Right? They flipped first, we flipped right after. Now, instead of instead of trying to knock them under 50%, I want my Thanos to get to his ult as soon as possible. So how do I make my Thanos get? And so the reason for that is not only that it will do a ton of damage, but it will also rewind their speed bar, and that means that my Thanos is going to ult, and then it means that my Maw is going to get to ult before their Maw does. So if those two things happen, Thanos ult plus Maw ult, then we win. Meanwhile, if their Thanos ults first and their Maw ults first, then we're going to lose. So the next step is we've been trying to push their Thanos forward and keep ours back to make sure ours flips second. Now we want to push our Thanos forward and keep their Thanos back, right? Because we want to get to our ultimate first. So the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to try to get my characters to fall under 50% and try to avoid knocking their characters under 50%. So this is kind of counterintuitive, but I want to actually keep them all above 50% so that my Thanos gets to the ult first. So no choice there. No choice here. All this is just kind of going as planned. Okay, now in this situation, this is Corvus's turn. I can do the basic or the ultimate. Now it looks like their Thanos has already fallen under 50%. That's not great because that's going to speed him up and I don't want that. But often their Thanos will be at like 60% now. I don't want to use this ultimate for two reasons. One, again, in this case, he's already under 50, but often he may not be, and I don't want to knock their Thanos under 50% because that's going to speed him up. It's not going to kill him. There's no way this ult is going to do really significant damage, but it will speed their Thanos potentially. Second, if I use the basic, then I'm going to get an assist from Proxima, and both Corvus's basic and Proxima's assist have a chance to strip buffs, and I would love to take Taunt off of this Corvus, or excuse me, off this Cull. It's unlikely because he gets a resistance boost from these regenerations, but there's a chance. So I'm going to use the basic both to avoid hurting their Thanos and so that I might have a chance of taking the buffs off. At least I'm expecting I'll use the basic. We'll see. I should use the basic. Oh, I didn't. You know, the reason that I didn't is because their Thanos was already under 50%, so I decided it just didn't really matter. But really, I should have used the basic there. Okay, now he's going to get speed because my counters just knocked him under 50%, and this is very close, right? My Thanos got pretty low here, so I'm probably going to win, and there wasn't really anything I could do differently, but just the way the RNG played out, they took more damage than I did, and so that led to a situation where their Thanos got to ult first, which is just not a great situation. Now, thankfully, their Maw is dead from my Thanos' ult, and it doesn't really matter what we do from here. But so the main thing is once we flip the buffs, we want to just really pay attention to the splash damage and make sure that we're trying to get to our Thanos ultimate as fast as possible by keeping them above 50%. Even if their Thanos does ult first, if ours is soon after, that's probably okay, unless their Thanos ult kills our Thanos. We just want to keep it close. And so again, the way we keep it close is counterintuitively by keeping them above 50 and letting our people fall under 50. So it is a strange matchup in that way, that it's not about focalizing damage in the way that we might be used to, right, on their lower characters. If you can kill somebody, by all means do. Often I can just kill a Proxima or a Ebony Maw, especially if I am able to take the taunt off of Cull. But generally speaking, I'm just kind of hanging back and playing for that Thanos ultimate. And again, the way we do that is by making sure that we actually keep them up, keep their health good until we're ready to do that. Keep the enemy health good. Okay, so that is all for today. Take care, everybody.